Alrighty, here we go. Here it is. I'm in my temporary studio, which is the back room of my cabin, which is not very big. I have the total building. I think I added up all the square footage of it, including the bathroom addition and this little room that I'm in right now. This room is 7 feet by 8 feet. Um, but total, all of it together, including the loft, I think I'm at like 340 square feet. It's a very small space, but it's really cool. It's been a place where I vacation for the last 17 years since I built it. It's on some family land in a place that has significance to my family, which is pretty neat. And thankfully, it's about 40 minutes from where I recently bought property. I sold my place in Southeast Michigan because I wanted to move the heck out of the city. So Southeast Michigan's where all the people are. I am now up in the northern lower peninsula of Michigan. And property that I bought, the acreage that I bought is very isolated. It's out on a dirt road. It already had a pole barn and some electricity, and I had a well, which is great because wells are really expensive right now. Anyway, while I am building that house, I will be recording and living here in this little cabin of mine, which is pretty cool. Um, I'm fine. I've been here for like a month, and that's why I haven't recorded shit for the last. Like I've had some conversations with people, but I haven't like done a full-on podcast like I'm gonna do today. And that's just, I have had a million things to do. I'm working on getting that property ready for construction. We're digging the foundation next week. Um, Actually, be this week. This will come out Monday morning. Tuesday morning, I'll be there digging the foundation and putting together all the construction materials and of course, I'm working too, running my construction company and the recruiting business at the same time. Anyway, here I am back recording. I'm excited as hell. If you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, you can see I got my mic back. I was in a bin with all my studio stuff that I went through with my barn, and there it was. I'm like, man, I gotta get my mic back on. That'll help a lot. Got that set up. I got some lighting. I can record this stuff here, and the internet connection sucks, but all I have to do is record it, and then I can just go to a coffee shop or something, and I can upload it, which is no big deal. And we're good to go. But anyway, here we are back in action. I'm finding myself very enthused that I'm back going here. So today I want to talk about rights versus responsibilities. And I think that those two things, they are very different, but I think the reason they're associated, the reason that I'm kind of pulling them together today is that most people are focused on their rights and not at all focused on their responsibilities. So let's just define them first of all. So a right, I don't know. That's a tough one. I think people spread that around with a pretty broad brush. You know, you have a right to. I had this conversation with some people on YouTube. I made a comment that housing is not a human right, and you wouldn't believe how many people wanted to light me up about that. Like, um, and by right, I guess what I'm thinking is it's a thing that you are owed, right? But from somebody owes you that, then you have a right to it. Like, and housing, I would say, is definitely not. I mean, if you don't work, if you don't earn money, if you're not smart, if you're not organized, like if you don't put yourself in a position, then you won't have any housing. You will be homeless, and the government does not owe that to you because you haven't worked and you haven't made good decisions and you've made a whole bunch of bad decisions probably and you don't have a home. I don't like that the government will come in and say, "Oh, you know what? We'll pay for you to live someplace." Section 8. You know, I really don't like that because that's basically socialism. What you're doing is you are making it so that people want to be homeless. You are incentivizing it, in fact. The more people who are get paid to not do shit, the more people will go ahead and not do shit. And I believe that it's not even a belief of mine. This is a fact. Human nature, I think, is the most predictable thing for me. And human nature is to do as little as possible to get by, for most people. And that's why universal basic income isn't going to work. That's why, again, housing isn't a human right. You need to work for that. It's a thing that you need to work for. So that's where I think that's where it shifts into the responsibility territory, right? So it's your responsibility to do what you have to do to provide shelter for yourself, to provide housing. I think about this place here that I'm sitting in that I'm recording from. I built it mostly out of secondhand stuff, mostly out of, um, you know, things that were used and cast aside. Um, and I did that over a span of several years. And I did it on my spare time and I did it for fun. I enjoy building. And now I'm in a position where, like I said, I want to build a new house. And I knew I couldn't start building the house and still be maintaining my old one because they're just too far apart from each other. So I have the luxury, I guess you can say, that I've afforded myself of selling that house, in downstate Michigan at the cream of the crop, the premium prices. Real estate couldn't have been higher, and I made a killing on it. And I took that money and I bought this property that I'm going to build on, and I started the construction process all with my profits there. And in the meantime, because I took the time on weekends and once a month, every couple months when I was still a teacher, and I took the time to scrounge together used stuff, I have this building that I can live in, and it's quite functional. I mean, it's not very big, but it's got electricity, obviously. Here we are recording. I've got running water. I've set up a, rudimentary plumbing system, but it certainly works. I've got hot water. It's got a shower. It's got, toilet. It's got the basics. Got a sink. I built a homemade septic system that works really well with the help of a good friend. And anyway, I did all that. And so now, I don't ever have to worry about being homeless because this building will never go anywhere. Um, and that's because I worked for it. So that was my responsibility to do that. And now it allows me to make different decisions with my life. So housing, yeah, not a human right. It's not a right at all. I would argue this about rights. Well, let's back up actually a little bit. I think that, and I heard Jordan Peterson say this, I very much agreed with him. I'm reading his second, I guess it's his third book right now. It's called Beyond Order. He said that for years, for generations, in fact, at this point, a couple of generations, we have taught kids in school and young people in college, certainly, that, they have to become activists and fight for their rights. And we've created this very entitled society where, people believe that they deserve everything for nothing. And, you didn't earn any of it. I got these young guys who work for me. And they're great guys. They work really hard and they do everything I ask them to do, and I can't really complain. And I'm not complaining. But I got to realize they came up in a different situation than I did. So, when they take my things without asking, I have to go, no, man, it's not your shit, it's mine. You have to ask me before you take it. And I have to remember that that's not how they were taught. They were taught that everything belongs to them no matter what. They deserve it just for being alive. And I have to remember that that's the world right now. I heard another quote that, stop, and it was directed at someone who thinks a lot like I do. And it was, stop trying to change people back to the way they were, because what you're doing is you're raising kids essentially for a world that no longer exists. And I hate thinking about that. I don't want to believe that the world isn't like I'm describing right now, that the world isn't, I don't want to believe that the world isn't thinking like I do, but I recognize that it is basically thinking like those young guys do. And it might be just your typical young versus old. You know what I mean? Like for eons, old people have said, these damn kids. You know what I mean? For eons, they've said that. And maybe that's the case here. And maybe I just, because I'm in my 40s now, I'm a lot better at, kind of understand the details of it and able to, put it into words, verbalize it better than I could when I was younger. And maybe I thought just like they did. And, and I kinda did really, but no, I asked before I took stuff. I know I did. My dad made that really clear to me. He was big on that. And I still do it. I don't think about The Rock. He was in a movie one time and he said, I don't reach into a man's refrigerator without asking permission first. And I think that's good shit right there. That's how it should be. Anyway, rights, I think so many people go so nuts for that. I got human rights. I got civil rights. I got the right to to speak my mind, freedom of speech. People want to bitch about that one. And here's how freedom of speech goes. The First Amendment isn't you can say whatever the fuck you want and nobody can not like it. That's not what it says. The First Amendment is you won't get any. The only thing that's illegal to say in our country is that you're going to kill the president. That's illegal to say. Um, and I don't know if that even gets enforced. You know what I mean? But that's the only thing that the government can't come after you for saying, at least currently. But that doesn't protect you from me or anyone else. If you say a thing I disagree with and we're having a discussion about it, I'm going to tell you what I think about it. Or if you come up to me and you see my shirt, like I'm wearing one of those lions, not sheep shirts, and that's going to trigger some leftists and kind of cool that happens. But if somebody wants to come up and talk to me about that, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that I have to think the way you do. I wore a shirt to the gym today that says pro gun, anti idiot, and read into that what you want. But that's exactly how I feel about it. Because I'm a Second Amendment guy. Um, that doesn't mean that you should be swinging around an AR every place you go. But again, it has to do with the government. The Second Amendment is so that you can if you have an armed society, if you have an armed people, um, then the government kind of has to know its place, at that point. And I hear the counter argument. I heard idiot Joe Biden say this. He says, well, what are your AR-15s going to do against tanks and nukes? And I thought to myself, Joe, are you saying that you're going to use tanks and nukes on the American population? Is that what you're telling me? And you know what? We got tanks and nukes. We've had them for a long time. We still got our asses kicked in Afghanistan. Right? Because those are people just with AK-47s and robes. They got no training, not a lot of them, but they're protecting their home, and they know how to use the terrain, and that's what it is here. That's what it is here in the U.S. In World War II, when Japan went after Pearl Harbor, they asked the Admiral so and so, "Hey, why didn't you go and then go after the contiguous 48 states? Why'd you stop at a territory at the time? Hawaii wasn't a state yet." And he said, "Because." In the United States, there's a gun behind every blade of grass. So that was part of the other half of world superpowers during World War II. Japan was no joke. I mean, they weren't Germany or France or England or Russia, they're bad dudes. Don't deny it. There's some tough motherfuckers. Russians are. But they're like, no, I'm not even gonna think about it. At the time, we were a separatist nation. We didn't want any part of any kind of wars. We didn't want any part of it. So um, that's what kept us safe. They knew that we have 331 million people here in the US and there's over 430 million guns. And that's really what it's going to come down to eventually. Now, maybe they nuke the cities or something, but all of us out in the country, we're well armed and you're not going to take us. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. It can't. And make no mistake about it, it's because we're well armed. That's what the Second Amendment's for. It isn't for, you know, the Wild West carrying a six gun walking into a bar. It isn't for that. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but does have to do with rights. When I talk about rights, I'm saying that these are the things that our government, and it's a weird situation. I love our country, but I do not trust our government. I don't think anyone should ever trust their government anywhere, anytime, ever. Like, especially here, we're a government of the people, for the people. It's a republic. We are a republic first and a democracy second. Um, you shouldn't trust your government. That's what keeps them honest. You know what I mean? We should have every fail-safe in place, every check and balance possible to make sure that they're doing what's best for us. I think about our governor here in Michigan, and during the COVID stuff, she shut down everything. She just thought she was our mom, and thought she knew what was best for us. I heard one of my buddies tell me, he's like, I like that she's willing to make the hard decisions, do the tough things. You know what I mean? Even though it's unpopular. And I was like, dude, that's not what your job is. Your job is to represent your constituents. You know what I mean? If the people want it, that's what you do. That's why they voted you in, to do what the people want slash need, right? And when you have that many people that are against those things, then you're not doing the right thing. And I'll just be shocked if there isn't anything but a massive red wave here in Michigan here this fall, because it's 2 years later and it's time to make some changes. Anyway, I don't want to get too political here. I really don't. But rights are what people get all worked up about. And I just, I don't believe you have any. You know, a right from the government is a thing that it's tenuous. It's really not a thing you can bank on because ultimately your government has the power. And if they decide they're not going to grant you your rights or they're going to infringe on your rights, then you're out of luck because you're just one person and they're a whole big government. And that's when you get to really what's underneath them, and that's responsibilities. And that's really what I want to kind of talk about here. Um, it is your responsibility to be prepared for any kind of potential outcome that might happen um, with regard to rights. So sure, we've got Second Amendment rights right now in our country to carry firearm. Here in Michigan, we can carry a firearm concealed, which up until I think 2010, you couldn't do that. I remember I moved to Indiana in 2008. You could not get a CPL here in Michigan. When I moved back in 2012, you could. So somewhere in there, it changed. And when I was in Indiana, it was a lot easier to get one. So I got one immediately. And when I came back to Michigan, I just got a new one. But that's people are going to call that a right from the government. And they're going to cry if it gets infringed. But that's all you're going to be able to do is cry. They're more powerful than you are. They're more well armed. Obviously, there's just not. So stop bitching about your rights, I guess, is the end result of this. It's your responsibility to look past that and say, well, what if they do decide to change? Maybe there is a sweeping governmental reform or a revolution or something like that, and those rights, quote unquote, rights from the government go away. What's your responsibility to be prepared for that? And I'm not a doomsday prepper, not at all. I don't think anything's ever going to crash. I mean, the conditions right now in our country are not good. I mean, they are certainly exactly what happens right before fascism would start, right before a totalitarian government would take over, right before another country would come take us over. We have never been more sort of ripe for the picking as people, and it has to do with the fact that people have become very lazy and whiny, and no one is really prepared for that sort of thing. So yeah, I've got quite a few firearms, and I've got a lot of ammunition. I mean, I used to 10% of what I made, I put this in my second book. I always would buy stocks with it, but that just became too unstable for me. So I started buying hard products, and right now that's ammunition. So 10% of what I make, I'm buying ammo and just stockpiling the shit out of it. Because I mean, it's always valuable. It's always valuable. You can always just sell it and make money, and that's easy to do. And obviously, if everything goes bad, you're gonna be glad you have it. It's a thing you can always trade. It keeps, right? It's gonna store for a long time, better than food or gasoline or anything like that. So, it's a thing you can trade if you have to. I don't know, it makes me feel more secure to do that. And again, that's your responsibility. With your rights some responsibilities. You can't just sit back and expect to be have these rights. I think a right, especially when it comes to human rights or my right to not be offended or my right to this, all these kids crying about all this shit. Um, that's just a figment of the entitlement of lazy people. That's what a right is anymore. That's what people who cry about rights, that's what it is. That's what they're when I look from the outside at them, that's how they're defining it. These are very entitled people that are lazy, don't want to work, and they're very entitled. So they complain about their rights. I'm going to tell you this, you have the right to what you earn, and that's it. And even then you might have to fight for it. You know what I mean? Like I earned this little cabin that I built. Every penny of it, I paid cash for it. You know what I mean? Like every step of the way. And I built it myself with my own hands. But there might come a time where, and I hate to sound doomsday-ish, but you should always be prepared. You should be prepared for any possible outcome. Somebody might challenge me and try to take it. And so then it's my responsibility to defend it. And I will. I mean, I'm prepared for that. Um, everything else is the same way. Now, so I've spent a lot of time talking about um, the government and your responsibilities with regard to that. And really where I want to go with this is just your day-to-day stuff. Um, your life. If you're complaining about your rights, you are not working for your responsibilities. And let me clarify that a little bit more. Your rights don't get you up in the morning. They don't. What your rights don't make you work hard all day. What makes you do that stuff is your responsibilities. You got a responsibility to raise your family. You got a responsibility to be a good partner. You got a responsibility to provide and protect. And that's why you work hard all day, whether it's to make money or to work on the home that you've built or to work on the relationship with your wife or to work on your relationship with your kids or to come up with family bonding things or I mean these are all the responsibilities that make your life valuable. You know what I mean? And valuable is a thing that thankfully you you and your partner get to define. And another thing that you define, and we're going to kind of get into some other territory here of your purpose. I had this conversation with this girl a couple of weeks ago, and she's working as a teacher, and she said she's very burned out, doesn't like it anymore. It's very difficult. She's working with a very difficult population of little kids. Um, s- like, I don't know any of the damn taglines anymore, what you're supposed to call them, but you figure special ed, right? That's what we used to call it when I was teaching. Real young special ed kids. And she's like, but it's my purpose. I can't not do it. I'm like, well, I mean, how good are you to those kids if you're completely burned out and you don't have the passion anymore, and you don't have the excitement, and all of a sudden, eventually it's going to become a job and you're going to dislike it. There's no way you can hide that. You can't hide that, you know? And she's like, well, it's my purpose. It's my purpose. I'm like, you know what? I actually asked her, I'm like, if you would like, I have done a lot of research on this, on your purpose and how that works. And I'm like, we could talk about that. She's like, no, no, I just want to complain about it. I'm like, oh, that's what I figured. But what I would have told her if she would have asked, which she would never do, was would have been this. You pick your purpose. You know, you decide what it's going to be. You figure it out. I mean, if it's a family, that's the thing you consciously chose. You and your partner, you put that together. You made some decisions about how you wanted your life to look, and you followed through with those decisions, and now you're living that life, and it's you've chosen it. For a lot of you, that is your purpose. It's a very good one to raise a family, raise very good kids who are going to be good adults and are going to make the world better just for them being in it. And when I say the world, I mean their world and partly your world, not the world. Stop fucking looking so big. You can't change the world, you can't, but you can change your world. People that you see every day, the people that you talk to, not the motherfuckers on social media. I know I have to do that for my job here to do this with my chosen purpose, but you do not. So don't look that big. You focus narrower. Think locally, act locally. You know what I mean? That's what's going to be the most rewarding for you. That's what's going to be the most effective. If there's a thing you can do to improve your community or your family or your neighborhood or your job situation, then it's your responsibility to do it. Believe that. It's not your right to have a great job and go in there and make a lot of money for not doing very much. It is your responsibility to do the best job you can there so that you can improve people around you. I very much am behind that. That's a thing that you absolutely should be doing. Yeah, your responsibilities, that's what gets you up in the morning. That's what keeps you awake at night. That's what is most important to you are your responsibilities. And if you think for 1 second that those responsibilities were forced on you by someone else, you are wrong. Every responsibility that you have, you chose it. And maybe it came from maybe your partner wanted kids real bad and you kind of didn't, but you did it because you wanted to be with your partner. But that was a decision you made. You chose to be with your partner. You chose that your partner was the most important thing. And so you did what you did. So that is your responsibility. You made that decision, so now you will follow through with that, right? That's how that's how that goes. Responsibilities, they don't just get you up in the morning. They make you work hard all day. They will cause greatness. Responsibility is going to get you basically taking advantage of compounding interest in your life. The harder you work, the better things get, and the better things get. You know what I mean? Like I was looking around at this property that I bought, and when I bought it, it was the barn looked real rough. Didn't have any electricity, had a dirt floor. So that's like the first thing I did was go in there and get a dirt floor poured in it and or I'm sorry, get a concrete floor poured in it with a drain and everything. And then I came in and wrenched in power from the pole, put in a sub panel, put in 240 lines, bunch of outlets everywhere, lights, fixtures. I got a TV in there. I got a beer fridge. I got like it's a place you can hang out now. And I was there hanging out yesterday with some friends, which was pretty cool. Did that. Had a we kept calling it the meth house, but it was like a single wide trailer with a little kind of addition off the back of it. That I don't know how long ago it was like a they told me the power hadn't been on there since 2008. So it's been 15 years, you'd think, since somebody lived in it. But talking to the neighbors, they said even then it was just absolutely dilapidated. It was so bad. It was in such bad shape. Like holes in the floor, the roof was sagging in, and they're propping up with 2x4s and stuff like that. Like it was rough. And what was left of it, I dug a big hole and buried it essentially. Some of it went in a dumpster, like the stuff that I knew wasn't going to biodegrade very well. But anyway, got rid of that, graded the property, got everything smoothed back out now. And I look at it now and I walk out there and it looks totally different after only a month. It looks totally different. And I know that each improvement I make now is going to be even a bigger jump because I got that base stuff out of the way. I got rid of all the old garbage and got it improved, right? So from here, it will get better much more quickly. I've kind of done the hard stuff. You know what I mean? I've done the difficult stuff. And yeah, so it keeps climbing like that. Now, another responsibility you have is to kind of look at where you are in your life and then try to enjoy it. And I'm saying that because of where I am in my life. If you would have asked me when I was 25 where I would be at 45, I would have described nothing about my life that is how it is right now. I would have told you that I would have been teaching full time in a school district somewhere. I'd have been coaching football and track and field. Um, I'd be married. I'd have a couple kids, maybe three. I'd be raising them. That's what my life was going to be. I'd probably be in southeastern Michigan mostly for my whole life. I wouldn't have said anything about this cabin. I didn't even wasn't even on my radar. I'd been like, yeah, I'd be going up to the town where this cabin is and seeing my family a couple times a year. That's what I thought my life was going to be. What I would have told you would have been exactly basically the life that my dad made for himself. I thought for sure that's where I would be. But that is not where I am. In fact, I am a single guy. I don't have kids. I don't have a boss. Um, I run two businesses that I own and operate. Um, I have written two books. I do this podcast. I get to connect with other professionals. By the way, if you are watching this and you are a TikTok fan, then you know who Green Cowland is. Lynn Watchhorn. I just talked to her day before yesterday, and she's going to be on the show, so I'm excited as hell. She's a purple-haired girl, says awesome things. A big fan of hers, and be cool to talk to her. But I would have never said that. Oh yeah, you wrote a couple books. You're single. You're building a house out in the middle of nowhere, and I'd have been like, no way. There's no way. But that being the case, I got two choices. I can think about where I'm not, or I can think about where I am. And I like where I am. It's pretty fun. Like I can jump on my motorcycle and ride anywhere I want to, any day I want to. I'm gonna take a day off, I can. If the weather's nice, no problem. I'll just head out and do what I want to do. And you know what else comes with that? With not having kids who are gonna be embarrassed by me, a wife who's gonna have a different opinion than I do, a boss who's got a reputation to keep up or political relations, public relations to deal with. All of that means that there is no blowback for me. I'm in the very unique situation where I can say exactly what I believe the truth is. I don't have to sugarcoat it for anyone. I can be extremely honest about what's real and what isn't. I can be absolutely abrasive if I want to be. And I know that most of the things I say, they do piss off a lot of people. But I am in a position in my life where I can do that and I won't have any real immediate consequences. Um, and two things there. Yeah, I've lost some friends over this. I've got a couple of friends I've known since elementary school that don't even talk to me anymore. And I know it's because I do this. My whole family looks at me differently. That's a weird dynamic. And I know that it's because of this. But I am one of the rare people who gets to say it. I get to say the things that everyone else is thinking. When I say what everyone else is thinking, I can't read minds. But I'm also the one that those people come and talk to because they know what I think because I say it here, right? And I hear these same comments from people all day long. Dude, I can't believe this is going on in our world right now. Can you believe people saying this, doing this about the entitlement, about the rights? I hear this from everyone. And so it's my responsibility. I choose the purpose of being the sort of the mouthpiece for the people who can't say this stuff. I mean, I get it. You got a job that you don't want to lose because it's your responsibility to take care of your family. So you don't want to make waves. I understand that. That happens to people more than it doesn't. I'm not gonna be the one telling you you need to take a stand on die on every hill. I'm not saying that because I'll do it for you. You know what I mean? I will say the things that you can't say, And I got no problem with that. In fact, not only do I not have a problem with it, I have chosen it as my purpose, and it is in fact my responsibility. So that being the case, I would encourage you to see it as your right to be able to go buy my book. It's called Reviving Masculinity. It's on Amazon. You can get it. Just Google it. You can get it from barnesandnoble.com. You can get it from my website, which is travisneville.com. If you order it from the website, you'll get an autographed copy. I'll mail it to you. You can also get my new t-shirts, which are camo with blaze orange on them. I think they look really cool. It's got the bullseye logo. Uh, I got t-shirts, I got hats, I got stickers. Spend some money, would you? Go out there and at least buy the book. If it doesn't help you, there's somebody you know that you can give it to that it would help them. And that few bucks helps me. So jump out there and do that if you would. I'm so excited to be back on the air, and I'm excited to record as many shows as possible over the next few months until I get into my new house. And then I'll have this office set up. It's going to be great. I hope that in some way today, this show helps you get your shit together. Have a great week.